I think that it's these layers in the mental health perspective, these layers. And sometimes I get people who are scared to like pull these layers back because it's going to change the way that they dance with their families, with their friends. And they don't want to be seen as anything different than what they're currently seen as, but it's causing so much unrest internally. They can't get sleep. You know, they're not getting sleep. They're gaining weight. They can't lose weight. They might be struggling in their, romantic relationships or not have a relationship, um, because they've checked all these boxes of getting all these accolades, but they don't know how to show their true self to a partner. So when they get really close to somebody, they actually will sometimes become aggressive or self sabotage the relationship or pick a wrong partner because that partner is based off their image out in the community. And I just think that in this article, it did a really good job of talking about the mask that one wears and kind of the three stages of this mask, of your mask that you have on, what's your personality behind the mask, and what is it like to live life if you didn't have the mask on. And I think that in my practice we work on that, and I think that a lot of people wear the mask, and I think that it impacts Black women a lot because you do get the message of being strong. You do get the message of, oh, I'm independent. Like if we think about songs, we are what we eat. So we are what we listen to, we are what we watch, and we are what we subscribe to. And it really, um, you really got to look at the ingredients of your day. What are you plugging into? Black girl magic, it doesn't speak to me, right? And for me, it doesn't speak to me because the message in my household was I was a person. It wasn't that, hey, I knew I was Black, but it got pushed in that. So I don't really plug into that, but I do plug in. I've plugged into working hard and putting my head down and working. And I know that that's gotten in the way of me living the life I deserve. And I started making changes. But yeah, I totally agree.
Talk a little bit more about the importance of perhaps leaving behind that existing social network and building a new one, because that's something that small business owners that I see often struggle with is forming relationships. Well, so I'll explain it this way. There's a basketball coach, legendary basketball coach, John Wooden, who said, you will never outperform your inner circle. And he had a very simple methodology for helping you figure out if you needed to make some changes. He said, take a piece of paper and make 3 columns on it. The first column is your professional network. Second column is your personal network. Third column is any social clubs or organizations that you're a member of. And he said, for each column, write down the 5 people who you spend the most time with: professional network, personal network, social clubs, and organizations. He said, once you've gotten your list, ask yourself 2 questions. Is for each person, is this person going where I want to go? And is this the kind of person who I want to have along with me on the journey? Is this person going where I want to go? And is this person the kind of person I want to have along with me on the journey? And he said, if the answer to either of those questions is no, you got to get rid of that person and recreate your circle, your top 5 people, because you're not going to get where you're trying to go if you're surrounded by people who are not going to help you get there. And I think that's something that is probably revelatory to many people. And then there are other people who understand it but struggle with executing it, living by it. It's easy to get rid of the jerks. Well, it's easy for some people. It's easy for me to get rid of the jerks. I will. Some people have a challenge getting rid of people in their lives who are not good for them. What's more difficult is getting rid of or significantly decreasing the amount of time you spend around the really wonderful, kind people in your life who just aren't going anywhere, or they're not going where you want to go. You can't anchor yourself to these people because they're happy where they are. If you're trying to get somewhere else and they're happy where they are and you're spending significant time around them, you're not going to pull them where you're trying to go, they're going to keep you where you are. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But from my perspective, it really comes down to you have this one life. That's the only one you're going to get. And if you don't take the actions that are necessary for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish in that life, you're not going to get another shot at it. And you can't blame anyone but yourself. Um, and I think maybe men would have an easier time doing that than women. Y'all are generally more empathetic and caring about the feelings of others, and less likely to jettison people, I guess. Whereas, I run my life like a professional franchise. You want a spot on this team, you got to help, you got to be contributing to a championship. And if you're not, you're a great person, love you to death, but I got to cut you. I need somebody in that spot that's productive, that's going to help me get where I'm trying to go. And I think that's much easier for me to say. I recognize that's much easier for me to say and do as a man because we get evaluated differently. But women business owners have to embrace some form of that same message, maybe with a velvet glove, or I don't know how, but the point is the same. The law still applies. The people who you're spending the significant time with are going to determine where you go in life. And if you don't formulate a circle that's going to help you get where you're trying to go, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I was thinking about that this morning actually. Um, and when I look over my life, I've always played like the top level sports teams in the area, always was competing or being on the same team with people who some people went to the WNBA, went overseas to play basketball. So it's interesting at a young age for me, I realized that if they weren't trying to go somewhere because I knew I wanted a scholarship in basketball for college. If they weren't going anywhere, I wasn't hanging out with them. And so some of that for me going into business for myself was how can I get around people that have been in it for a long time? Because when I started my business at my age, none of my friends were starting businesses. Nobody, everybody else was just like getting into the workforce, and everybody wanted to climb this ladder. And I didn't have the what is the word that I didn't have the desire to climb a ladder. I didn't have the desire to be like everybody else, but there were people that I leaned on. And this is something I've always done is like I always have been around older people, 25, 30 years older than me, because they give me some wisdom of what life is like. And so one of the things I did was I just would start talking to people I used to say, "Hey, what's your 5-year plan?" And my mom used to tell me stop saying that. I did that at like 20. I started doing that at 21. And I just wanted to know, I was like, "Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years?" And for me, I think what I did was I started setting people to certain circles. So if you were like, "Hey, in 5 years I want to be here, I want to do this," and it was moving forward, you got placed in the circle close to me. And if you weren't there, it was no hard feelings. They might get placed in the circle like 3 circles out. And I just ran myself accordingly with that. Like I just ran life like that.